Have you ever felt that case that even when you're clearly and obviously the best employee, and since you have the most qualifications, the most experience, the most degrees and certifications, and just plain out work the hardest, but you still get passed up for promotions, and instead your least favorite coworker gets it? Just kidding about the least favorite coworker, but maybe that happens too. If you went through the same education system that I did, or maybe you were just taught some of the same things, then you might have actually been focused on working hard and maybe working smart. But in my experience, being likable is actually extremely important. And I'd argue that it's even more important than working hard or even working smart. So on this channel, I primarily and I mostly talk about personal finance. Sometimes about frugality because that's just because I'm a frugal person, but a lot of my emphasis so far on this channel has been about saving money and reducing costs. But increasing your income is actually also a very important part of the equation to building wealth. So most of us work a 9 to 5 job, so climbing the corporate ladder is actually a really important thing in helping you increase your income. So for this video, I'm going to be going into why likability is so important for you and your career, and for even success outside of your job. So you may have heard this before, but people are social creatures, and we naturally gravitate towards people that we like. If you're likable, then your colleagues are more likely to want to collaborate with you. They're more likely to value your input, support any initiatives that you're working on or any that you're pushing forward. And this likability not only does it affect your coworkers, but it also affects your boss, making your boss more inclined to advocate for your promotion. And not just your boss either. If you're well liked by people even higher up than your boss, let's say your boss's boss or the executive team, then they will also be your corporate sponsors or your executive sponsors and advocate harder for you as well. I've seen that happen a lot of times throughout my career. For example, I've had a entry level colleague who became best friends with one of the executives in the company that I was working with, and that was actually one of the driving factors in her being fast tracked on her way to becoming a VP. Or the time that I've seen someone who was just 3 years fresh out of college get along so well with one of the company founders that by the age of 24, they were already promoted to the rank of director. Or even those cases of the business owner who just fast tracked their kid to a vice president in their business. Because, everyone loves their kids. So it's not just for your day job, but being likable in general, being charismatic, really makes people just want to help you out. Now, this one, I think it applies no matter what line of work you're in. And I know it was definitely something that was really important in mine, because in my career, I remember an example of one of the financial analysts in my company who finally had their opportunity to present to the CEO of the business. And they were an otherwise decent employee because if they weren't, they wouldn't have been offered this opportunity. Now, I don't know if the issue was maybe nerves or something else, but long story short, they completely botched that presentation. They botched it so badly that they just about got blacklisted from any promotions in that company. So, for example, his presentation materials had some errors in it, he made a few incorrect claims, and etc. The CEO, pretty shortly after spotting a few of those errors or mistakes, was really quick to shut him up, have someone else take over the presentation, and basically made a comment that he couldn't trust the information that that person was providing. So, being trustworthy and credible is really important to your success, especially in the workplace. And to tie it all back, being well liked and being highly likable helps others find you to be more trustworthy and find you to be more credible. Now, have you ever worked in a setting where you didn't have formal authority, and the only thing you had was informal authority, meaning you weren't their direct supervisor, maybe you're just a senior or considered a mentor in the group, where you kind of had to guide or lead or even mentor other people on your team? I've done a few of these roles myself, and I'll be the first to say that I don't think I would have been able to get half as much done if those people hated me. Because, in fact, I've seen examples where even someone with actual formal authority, meaning that person was their actual boss, but was not well liked by the people that were reporting to him. I remember that they talked behind his back, they made insults about him, and they really were reluctant to do anything he asked. But forced to, they would still do bare minimum. And if things ever hit the fan, they definitely would not have his back. And that's in contrast with the times that those same people definitely went above and beyond to help me out. Because in those cases, our working relationship was a little different. They saw me as a friend and as someone who always advocated for them and had their back. And just to add an extra note here, but maybe some of you are thinking that if you're their boss, they just have to do what you say, or else you can fire them. And that might work the first or second time or third time. But if it keeps happening, eventually your own boss is going to take note of that. And they're going to start thinking that you're the problem and not all the people who didn't like you. So just keep that in mind, that being likable and charismatic really helps a lot even in a leadership role. Now, have you guys ever seen what some working professional in your field or in your function says about networking? The most recent comments I remember in my own circles is that they try to do their best. They try to do their best at their jobs to build up their personal brand, to build and maintain credit and trust, and also their reputation. But one of the key things that I hear frequently spoken about and frequently stated is not only do they want all of those, and not only do they want to be seen as competent, but they also want to be seen as highly likable or highly liked. Because people want to work with people that they like. And if they like you, they'll probably invite you to apply to whatever job opening they have, or they'll be more eager to refer you for a job at their company or their new company. So it's actually really important to have good, long-lasting impressions on people, on the people that you meet, because they're going to be more interested in inviting you to their next party, their next gathering, or maybe just their next job opportunity. In my opinion and my experience, aside from a lot of the generic advice about maybe having a sincere interest in other people or a genuine interest in other people, I've actually always thought that having shared commonalities, interests, and hobbies at the same level of passion is actually what really makes people like each other. For example, just because you watch one basketball game a year doesn't mean that you're going to be able to enthuse and gush over it as well as your two other coworkers who catch every single basketball game every single season. So if it was up to the three of you, naturally, those two coworkers will probably become much better friends with each other than with you if basketball is the only shared interest that the three of you have together. And for another example, and this one's a fairly extreme example, but I am stating this on purpose to illustrate this point. But people who are passionate about Kamala Harris are naturally or generally gonna tend to like each other more. And people who like Donald Trump are also probably going to tend to like each other more. But now on the flip side, they probably find people on those opposite spectrums more unlikable. And of course, basic manners combined with some EQ and social calibration matters a lot. Because we can't be carbon copies of every single person that we meet, so of course we're going to have disagreements or differences. But having as many shared interests as possible will probably help you a ton in being likable. So if you're an open-minded person and try more things, get to grow and develop more interests and hobbies, that'll actually probably help you out and you'll probably get a maximum effect of being liked. And on the note of EQ and social calibration, if you do find something that you love, for example, that your boss hates, let's say basketball, then resist the urge to call them a huge ass dummy to their face. And instead, maybe just don't talk about basketball with them and talk about it with your friend Brad instead. So that was a pretty quick one, but that's about all I have for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you have more tips on how to be likable. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.